We're off and running on the Krueger Show Saturday morning. Hope everybody's having a great week. I was out at Niner Minicamp yesterday. We're going to talk all about it today. Welcome to the Krueger Show, brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove. Give Anthony Catania a call down there. He's at 831-521-5264. Coach, what's going on, man? How are you?
My man, how are you, man? It's pretty good weather out here. Just got through with a run with the dog. The season is officially here, man. We got the rookies on the field. They're starting to warm up. The developmental team is seeing what our new merchandise looks like for the first time on the field. I'm excited, man. How do you feel, Larry?
Yeah, no, I feel good. I feel really good. It was funny. I was out there yesterday watching minicamp, and, I wouldn't say there were any, super surprise revelations. Sometimes you show up in minicamp and somebody's dramatically out of shape. Didn't see that. Sometimes somebody who you didn't expect just looks like a house on fire. Just looks amazing. Didn't necessarily see that.
Right.
But it was, I thought overall it was a really productive day and there were some really good things. To me, the guy that stood out the most, I mean, I would say if I took one guy offense, one guy defense, and say these guys stood out the most, I would go with Dominic Pooney on offense.
Okay.
The offensive lineman from Kansas. I mean, he's big, fit, fast, physical, nasty, energetic, supernaturally strong. You can see the guy's got great strength. He looked good. He really looked good. He looked like the kind of guy that easily could contend for a starting spot on the offensive line this summer. And then on the other side of the ball, man, Malik Mustafa. I mean, I really can't say enough about Malik Mustafa. Just the build, the movement ability. He's thick. I mean, he's built like a thumping linebacker, so to speak, but he also has great movement ability. He showed a lot of confidence in the way he kind of played and moved around out there. I thought Mustafa on defense and Pooney on offense really stood out, Coach, as far as guys that are not just good draft picks, guys that I think probably make the roster right out of, or probably start right out of the week one. We'll see, but I think there's an opening at right guard. I think there's an opening at free safety, and I think those guys are going to compete.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a couple of questions for you since you're the man of the hour. You've been there, and this is what I love is because now instead of repurposing takes that are basically takes of takes or talking about narratives from reading the Pope Smoke, we get a chance to actually get real feedback, right? We went through this last year with Brock Purdy, right? What is he going to do this year? What's he going to do off the arm? How does he look? And the biggest thing that I championed and I echoed all throughout the offseason is I got to see him. I have to see him. And I need to talk to people that have seen them themselves, right? Right about now, anybody talking who's not in the building doesn't know what's happening right now. So a couple of questions.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the question, right? Because I know what's swirling around because I've had a chance. Everybody knows that I've been away for a little bit, just handling personal business. So I've had a chance to be able to just hover and just watch, right? So a couple of questions I have for you. Number one, is Ronaldo Green ready to play?
I thought he looked really ready to play. He's out there playing aggressive, very physical, great leaping ability, great tenacity, great competitive fire. Him and Mustafa are great competitors. They're really good athletes. I think they're both going to play right away.
Okay.
Green, we did talk to Nick Sorensen. Sorensen said they're going to try him at nickel to start.
Okay.
So I think what you're going to see is, he'll they'll have Mooney and Lenore outside, and this guy in the slot, most likely. So, you know,
Okay.
and they go, their 4-2-5 is almost their base look now, right? I mean,
Hmm.
they don't, I mean, teams are out of the base and in the sub package at such a degree now where the base is really the sub package and the sub package is the base.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think Renardo Green is not the biggest guy, but
Hmm.
you can see he's really tenacious,
Okay.
really
All right.
aggressive, really competitive.
All right. So I'm going to take the theme of the show right about now. I'm
Okay.
going to interview you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to try to ask you the best questions of what the fans want to know, right? Because these are the questions. I haven't called anybody, I haven't talked to anybody. So these are the burning questions that I want to know. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Does Tatum Bell look like he can be a contributor? Is somebody who's going to be put on the shelf? Does he look like he could be a special teams guy?
Who are we
First
talking
of
about?
all, Tatum Bethune. Sorry, Tatum
Bethune.
Bethune. Yeah. Is he impressive? Does he look like a 49ers linebacker? Tell me about what you've seen from Tatum Bethune so far.
Well, he's a little undersized in that, instead of being like 6'2", he's more like 5'11".
Hmm.
He's a little on the shorter side. He's tremendously athletic. I
Hmm.
mean, he's a
Hmm.
really, really good athlete. And he moves really well. And he's always if you watch Florida State film, he's always around the ball. And if you watched him out there, he's flying around. I mean, he's an understated guy, but he seems confident in his abilities. Johnny Holland, handpicked this guy. I mean, he maintained a talking relationship throughout the draft process. So they really wanted this guy. Um, they've had good success picking linebackers in the past. Greenlaw in the 5th round, Warner in the 3rd round, Aziz as an undrafted guy, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles and Curtis Robinson off the street. Jalen Graham day 3, D Winters. I mean, they've done a good job in the past at identifying guys that fit their scheme. This guy is athletic, small. He's not a big guy. I mean, I would say he's under 6 feet, but
Okay.
he's tremendously athletic.
So if you give me his arc, out of all of the linebackers that we've signed that have come here that have been late picks or UDFAs, who does he most likely remind you of?
Probably Jalen Graham, just from the standpoint of he's a little on the smaller side. This guy's 5'11", about 235,
Hmm.
and Jalen Graham's probably 6'1", 225.
Hmm.
They're in that kind of smaller linebacker package, but they move really well. I mean, that's really the thing. It's like this guy, the four it used to be 4'9" linebackers were fine. Then it's like, hey, if you ran 4'9", you were going to get isolated, and you need to have guys who ran at least 4'7".
Hmm.
Now it's like a lot of these guys run right around 4'5". Now Bethune runs 4.61, so he's a little on the slower time for the stopwatch than some of their other guys, but he's clearly athletic, really, really rangy, great
Hmm.
movement ability. He's and he seems like a really nice kid as well.
Hmm.
But we'll see as far as, you know, they're getting between Graham and Winters and Flanagan Fowles and Curtis Robinson and Ezekiel Turner. And then, of course, you've got Greenlaw hurt, probably on PUP for the first part of the year. Then you got Fred and you got Bethune. I mean, you've probably got 8 or 9 linebackers there, and you're probably only going to keep 5 or 6.
Hmm.
So I would say there's going to be a battle, obviously, of Devon. I mean, the one thing that was clear is when I talked to, when I asked the questions about Jalen Graham, I got we just signed Devondre Campbell. So Devondre Campbell is going to be the starter opposite, um, Fred Warner inside.
Okay.
Devondre Campbell is going to take Dre Greenlaw's spot, at least to start. And then if he gets outplayed by Graham or Winters or Bethune, I think then they'll make the move from there. But they're definitely starting with Campbell as the number 1 guy in the depth chart.
Okay. All right. So customarily, we always go for scheme fit guys offensively. And I want to be able to get to this player because I feel like he's not getting a lot of shine, and he could be a contributor early, in my opinion. Tell me what you've seen from Jacob Cowing so far.
Well, I mean, not only that, I had a chance to talk to him yesterday, and I asked him a few questions. I mean, he is he's very, very quick. He's kind of like a poor man's Tyreek. He's
Hmm.
quick, but he's short, but he's not small and weak.
Hmm.
He's really competitive. He's a guy who can run routes and can get vertical and can get separation, and yet is very precise in his route running.
Hmm.
He plucks the ball with his hands. He's 5'8", but he plays strong. Like he'll try to block downfield.
He's a
You
strong
know,
route runner. Is he strong?
he's really strong as a route runner. To me, one of the things, there's a great video that Steve Smith did on Cowing, and I asked Cowing, I said, "Have you seen the Steve Smith video on you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And it's like a half hour long, and Steve Smith goes through all the different reasons he loves Cowing. And one of
Hmm.
the, and Steve Smith should be listened to because in a lot of ways, Steve Smith was Cowing, right? He was a 5'9" receiver with speed and talent and, huge guts. And you see a lot of the same traits. One of the things that in the Steve Smith breakdown of Cowing, he talks about how he's got advanced eyes and he knows what to look for. And there was one play where he was trying to beat the jam at the line of scrimmage and the corner's right up on the line. And he's looking at the safety because he's looking to see if he's going to be doubled, if what exactly, if he can get the coverage indicator away from how the safety's playing him off the line. And to me, when you see stuff like that, you see, this guy's well coached. This guy's been around. He's a veteran. So
Hmm.
he played his best football at the end of the year. Huge against Arizona State, monster against Oklahoma. Those last two games, he had like 16 catches for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns combined. So he finished fast, but he's a mature, focused, intense kid who I think is going to contribute right away. I wouldn't be surprised. I saw him and Pearsall, and I liked what I saw from Pearsall too. But I would say Cowing, because of that unbelievable speed that he has, I think in this offense could be a huge impact right away.
What did Cowing run? Do you know?
He ran 4.38, but
Okay.
I would say he plays easily that fast. Easily. You see guys, excuse me, that run the great 40 time, but they don't play to that time. Vernon Davis comes to mind, and there are others. This guy plays faster than the time. He's really, really quick in and out of the breaks. He's really, really refined as a route runner. And he's just ready to contribute right away. I think he'll help them as a returner if they want to use him that way, but I think he'll also really help them as a dynamic, third receiver that can create separation. I mean, they
Hmm.
haven't really had. I mean, they've had Jawan on third down, sticky-handed, big-bodied guys who catch it in a crowd, but they haven't had the third down guy or the slot guy that really has good ball skills and can create the separation.
Hmm.
So in a long, long time. So this is going to be an element that gives them kind of a more of a dynamic feel.
I'm going to get for the record. I want to get to Pearsall last.
Okay.
Uh, this is a under. This is a under. I believe that this is a undersized guy that we picked up. But I believe that he may be a backup. But what do you think about Jarrett Kingston, the tackle slash guard that we got out of USC, the transfer senior?
Well, you can you can see the strength.
Okay.
He's got both lower. He's got speed and upper body strength. So and he's to me the guys that I looked at all four of the linemen, and I wanted to take a close look at those four linemen. To
Hmm.
me, Mays didn't look like much. kind of an undersized guy. He's got some athletic traits, but he to me he didn't really demonstrate that. Nugent looked short, but man, what a wide body he is. I mean, he is a very broad offensive lineman. So that's a great sign because you want guys that are wide, that are hard to get around. So Nugent, I thought looked pretty good. Mays, not so much. I loved the way that Pooney looked, and I would say Kingston. Kingston looks like like a guy with who's kind of got some. The one thing I liked about Kingston is he seems like he's the kind of guy that's got some nasty to him in that he'll keep the legs churning. He's gonna push. He's gonna use that upper body strength and really lean on you. And he just seemed like a kind of a guy that is a little bit more of a tough guy fighter than I thought when I watched him at USC. So that I liked, and Pooney looked, I thought, really really good. I mean,
that's what I want to get into.
Pooney looked good.
Where does Pooney look like he would play? Right guard? Would he be somewhere that's where we would put him?
He's a guard. I mean, I think the opening the Niners have is definitely at right guard. I mean, he could be a left guard at some point, I guess, if Banks left in free agency, they didn't sign him. But yeah, I think Pooney's going to be in the running for that starting right guard spot. I mean, he can play tackle. He said he can play all 5 spots, but almost every person that you talk to thinks that he's going to slate in as a guard. But what's really nice is that he moves really well.
I was just about to ask you, how are his feet?
Yeah, I mean, he moves very well. I mean, this is probably their best moving offensive lineman. I mean, of all of them, Brendel, Burford, Trent. He's a bit. Well, Trent's a gigantic human being, but this guy's 313 pounds. What's nice about Pooney is when you watch him, you would swear he's like 275, 280 because he's moving, right? He's really moving. And then you look at it and you're like, yeah, he's 313 pounds. So, they haven't had, I mean, the Niners haven't drafted an offensive lineman that's really stuck, it seems like, in the high rounds. I mean, Banks is a second round pick, but they haven't drafted that many high draft choices. So we've seen a lot of practice squad level bodies and talent along the offensive line. So to see Pooney out there, he really does stand out because he's big, he's rangy, he gets his feet moving, and he's nasty. So, I mean, I think Pooney has a great and we talked to him at the end of practice. Guy's got just a great attitude. He's thrilled to be there. He's really has high standards. He's a nice prospect for sure. He seems like a really good fit personality wise, and he's got that personality you love, which is he's humble and he's smart and he's competitive, but you can tell at the end of the day he loves the contact and the nastiness of being a super physical run blocking offensive lineman. So I mean, there's lots of technique work to be done there. Coach. I mean, offensive and defensive line, people don't realize how much technique goes into it. It's so hugely technique rich. And that's why you see older guys. That's why you see young guys struggle. And that's why you see old guys stick around a long time on the offensive and defensive line, because it's so much about technique.
Once you lock it in, you've locked in. It's a certain type of football to play in the trenches. Once you know how to play down there, you understand the angles, you understand the physicality that it takes, what your body has to put, what you have to put your body through. Then just the mental side of it. Yeah, I understand. One thing
like Feliciano, I look at it like Feliciano versus Burford. Feliciano's been in the league forever. He's taken his bumps and bruises. He's had his surgeries, but he still grades out higher than Burford, who in a lot of ways is young and fresh and has the perfect build to play offensive line. Right now, Feliciano grades out higher because it's such a technique-rich thing, and he's got the techniques down, despite the fact that he's diminished physically from what he was when he came out of Miami, but he's still churning away, playing pretty effective football because he's got the techniques down. So now it's just time to get their more talented guys, right? Who are the more talented guys in their line? Burford, Banks, Pooney now. These are the guys that are, some of their better young talents on the offensive line. Coach those guys up, get those guys ready to roll. But they may have found something in Nugent because it looks like he looks like the kind of guy that, may have some issues with speed, but man, he's not an easy guy to go against. He's strong, he's smart, he's broad. There's a lot to like there with Nugent, despite the fact he was undrafted.
So wait a minute. So you think that Nugent actually has a chance to crack into the starting lineup?
Well, to make the team. Yeah, I think Nugent, just watching Nugent move around, it's like Nugent is I know the kid is smart and, assignment sound. I know he's pretty decent technique-wise. I know he's got some struggles against speedy nose guards, and there's a bunch in the league. But he also is one of those guys. He's really, really wide, and he's willing to stand there shoulder to shoulder and fight you. And to me, that's going to put him in the running against Brendel this summer. We'll see how it all shakes out, of course, in the game.
Can he run?
Yeah,
that's the only thing. Because he runs a 5.3, but that's the calling card of our offensive line. If you can't run, you can't play.
Yeah,
because it's the reach. If you can't reach, you can't play.
Yeah, he's not the best mover, but I thought he showed good feet in the drills. Yeah, at least moving around out on the practice field. So, he knows what his weaknesses are for sure. But that was an interesting undrafted free agent offensive lineman for sure, Drake Nugent.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I like about him, he's nasty. He's got strong hands. Playing center with 33-inch arms is a good length. It's not the best length, but it's a good length.
First team All Big Ten.
Yeah, first team All Big Ten.
Big Ten's pretty strong offensive line typically.
Yeah. Had a great career at Stanford. That's one thing too, is that I feel like if you're gonna transfer, lateral. You know what I mean? Lateral over. I mean, I personally get a little worried about these guys that are seniors at lower schools, and then they go to a bigger school and they put it all together playing against, talent as a senior. But one thing I will say is Drake Nugent is not that guy. The same level of football he's playing at Stanford can be lateral right over to Michigan. One thing that I do like about him is that even though he may not give you that long speed in a phone booth, he's a motherfucker, bro. Excuse my French, but
he's thick. I mean, this is a broad guy. Everybody's built different. That's why you gotta, especially with the offensive linemen, you gotta go see them. You gotta go see them because, I remember a couple years ago, the Niners gave the most guaranteed money of the undrafted free agents where they could pay a variable amount. They paid the most to Donovan West. And Donovan West was an Arizona State interior offensive lineman.
Swore he was going to be a dog.
I saw him one day, and I was like, nope. I don't know whose idea it was to give this guy the money, but no, just not
okay.
There.
Pause.
He had no shoulders at all. He was dumpy. His feet were heavy. His arm length was good, but he didn't have a lot of upper body development. I mean, it was just, I was sitting there watching this guy going, wow, they really thought this guy was the guy, this kind of slow, heavy footed, carried most of his weight in his legs. And sure enough, he just was unimpressive and heavy legged and got burned by speed, got burned by power up the middle. I mean, if you can't handle speed and you can't handle power, you can't play.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in the trenches. In the trenches, that's literally what you're going to have to deal with on every rep. You have to deal with one or the other or both. Right. At all times. You can't hide.
There's guys in the league that can handle power but can't handle speed. Same of the opposite. But there's nobody in the league that can't handle either.
Both. Yeah.
You can't handle speed or power. They're just, you're
You're a
You're
saloon
another
door.
yeah, you gotta go find a different occupation.
You're a turnstile. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I agree, but sticking with that, if we're gonna stay
Nugent
with
can handle power. I don't know if he can handle speed.
okay, so if we're sticking with that, would you say that Nugent has a better out of the three offensive linemen? Do you see all three potentially being able to start on this team?
Well, I mean, because so they got four, right? They got Pooney and Kingston in the draft, and they got Nugent and Mays after the draft. To me, Nugent looks like he can't handle speed. Mays looks like he can't handle power. He
Mm,
looks like he's got quick feet, and he's a movement guy, but I don't know if he can handle the power because he seemed like he got overwhelmed at times. To me, just based on the one practice that I saw, Pooney looks like a guy who could contend for a starting job right away and maybe be one of their maybe be one of their better offensive linemen, maybe even be a stalwart on the offensive line.
mhm.
And then Kingston to me looks like he could potentially be a starting interior offensive lineman. I mean, he's got real good strength. He moves people with his upper body. He keeps his feet moving. He's got good feet. So I mean, that he checks a lot of the boxes. So I mean, I think he's probably to me, Pooney looks like a right guard who could maybe play right tackle. Kingston looks like a center who maybe could play guard, and Nugent looks like a center
Mm.
who couldn't play guard, and Mays
Okay.
doesn't. Mays looks like a guy who's like a um, you know like a developmental uh, practice squad offensive lineman at best. And
Man.
that
God
was just
damn,
one
Larry.
day. That was just one day. But
All right, okay.
he's athletic though. I mean, Mays is athletic for sure. But you could see it was like the guys that he was going up against were stronger than him.
Well, I saw some tweets that you put out uh that you were looking at one particular player where you maybe had to back up off of some of your initial takes on him. I really want to know about how you saw Mason Pline to during mini camp.
Well, it was really interesting. Lombardi brought it up, and he's totally right. I was standing right there. I mean, now, granted, I don't know about the quality. I think one of the tight ends might have been a kid from Sac State who was like 6'1", 240, and
Mhm.
really didn't look like a. I think his last name was Martin. He didn't really look like a tight end. So, like, I don't know about the caliber of the other two tight ends that he was kind of training with the tight end coach with. But the tight end coach Fleury was spending most of his time coaching um,
Mason Pline.
Mason Pline. So
Mhm.
as if like Mason Pline's the guy they're hoping is the guy, which you know what? There's some interesting things. One, he's a little bit knock-kneed in that,
Mm.
so that's kind of an interesting look because it doesn't look like you're that good of an athlete or a runner when you're kind of
Tips.
a little knock-kneed. But then his upper body strength was well above what I thought a basketball player convert would have. I mean, he looked pretty strong, to be honest. And he catches the ball nicely with his hands. He plucks the ball. You can see him out there easily. He's 6'8", and he's really smart. So, I mean,
Is he
that
smooth?
part.
Or is he smooth or is he punchy?
No,
Like how does
I
he
would. To me, he. If you didn't know he was a basketball player, you wouldn't know. You know what I mean? So
uh
it's not like he's out there. Like they had another 6'8" tight end out there as well. But you wouldn't sit there and go, you know what, basketball player. He's pretty yoked up in the upper body, very strong. He to me, he was that the surprise was how strong he looked in the upper body, but also he's smooth and fluid, for a guy who played at Furman and went undrafted. Yeah, he looks like he's got nice ball skills. He's a big guy. He catches the ball with his hands, but he looked pretty smooth. He wasn't like one of these guys that looked really raw. though, we know he is relatively raw. But,
Mhm.
the traits, the one thing that you can't see, of course, is you can't see the intellect. But I'm sure that comes across in meetings
Mhm.
and when they go learning the offense and installing things. This guy, I think, will take to it faster because of his brain. But yeah, I mean, he's a big athletic tight end who looks like he catches the ball with his hands and can high point it. So he definitely
Okay.
looked like the best tight end on the field.
All right. Well, yeah, granted the company that he was keeping. But
Right.
however,
There was not a lot of good tight ends out there. And they were
okay.
coaching him hard like he was somebody who's going to be around.
Yeah. All right. So we didn't really go D line this year in the draft. We
Right.
stayed away. So there is an intriguing signee that we had, Evan Anderson out of Florida Atlantic. What did you think out of him? What did you think he did this day? Like
Well, I mean,
6'3", 326.
yeah,
Um,
he looks a little slow. I mean, he's not giving you anything as a pass rusher. He's not going to. I had 5.5 sacks this year. I'd love to have seen them because it's like, it's like hard to envision almost. But what he is very naturally strong.
okay.
Like, very naturally strong. Like you could have two 300-pound guys combo blocking this guy, and he can literally force his arms forward, stand him up, split it. You know what I
So you're
mean?
gonna be a two gapper.
He's a definite two gapper. He's a
Okay.
huge, huge two gapper. I'll say this too. He moved better on the field than he did in the highlights. Like if you watch his highlights from Florida Atlantic, now he played part of the year at 360 and part of
Whew,
the year at 320. So maybe he's
Cat
more
Daddy.
closer to 320 now because at 360 he just doesn't move at all. I mean, it's like not fast enough. He doesn't move well enough to play in the NFL or to ever get any kind of. I don't see him coming off blocks. I don't see him sacking the quarterback. He just looked really, really slow. But then on the field, he looks a little quicker because it seems like he's in this like, you know, he might have been 380, and then all of a sudden he's
Playing
360, and
he's
now he's
playing
down to
nice.
320, and it's like,
As a former member of the big boy club, you know what I'm saying, fighting
yeah,
to get out myself. I'm on time served parole right now. They could snatch me back. Uh when you play that size, my only worry with playing with a guy who's we're having a guy who's been up there to that level, that size, is that if he's been to 380 and he's 326 now, we got to say to ourselves, are we going to be dealing with like a weight baby? Like, is he going to be gaining 40 pounds in the offseason and then trying to lose it every year, right? Just to get him down. And then as he gets older, he realizes he can't lose the weight. I mean, I do love him as a two gapper. I love him in short downage, short down situations. I do think he's going to make the team. We just don't have enough beef. At that position. And really, who really is our best two gapping guy right now? Collins,
him. It's him. I think it might be this guy. Well, I mean, yeah, maybe Collins, maybe Elliott. Is Elliott? And
Elliott, yeah,
Elliott's
Elliott,
310.
but he's not even
Um,
really a two gapper.
no, these guys have movement ability. I mean, here's the question too. Does every guy on the defensive line in the NFL in 2024 have to be able to rush the passer? Or can you have legit two gappers? And the reason I ask that is I've seen the way some teams you rush when they do have like, or some teams block when a team's got like a Jonathan Hankins who's
Mhm.
just, 345 and he's not really going to rush anybody. What teams stop doing is they stop blocking that guy and they sag in, they combo block on the next nearest guy and they almost like force you to, that guy to either get home unblocked or to get off the field because he's too slow. So that's the one question I would have is that, yeah, the Niners need to do better inside against the run, and Evan Anderson should help in that regard. But I mean, how many snaps can you play when you can't move and you can't rush and you don't, and nobody has to really block you?
Mhm.
So that's the question. The guy to me though that opened my eyes was Shaquille Brown, who played at Tennessee last year, and he played at Troy the year before. He came out of the draft the year before, then went to the Titans, had an injury that
Mhm.
cost him a good portion of the year. And then they cut him loose, and he was at Niner minicamp. And I'll tell you, he's intriguing as hell because you're talking about a guy who's 295 to 300 pounds, who really had great measurables. I mean, coming out of Troy, I mean, we're talking about a guy who ran, like a 4.85 40, and his shuttle time was 98th his 20-yard shuttle was 98th percentile.
What's this
And
guy's name?
his name's Shaquille Brown, Shakel Brown. And he's an intriguing guy. I mean, this guy went to 3 different JUCOs. He played tight end in high school. He's a Miami, Florida kid. He went to South Dade High School, transferred to Lincoln High School in Tallahassee his senior year. Coach, this kid played hoops until the 11th grade. And he's enormously strong, benches 465, squats somewhere close to 6 bills.
Mm.
And he was wearing number 95. He's a 25-year-old kid. They list him at 206'3", 295. And just watching him move around and looking at some of his movement skills. I mean, he's your classic late bloomer. He
He's a
played
late
hoops.
bloomer.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't play football until he was a junior in high school. So that's really late. I mean, not that you have to play Pop Warner, but I mean, if you don't play till you're junior in high school, that's late to the party. Then he's got these crazy measurables and wound up at Troy State. Troy State is a small school in Alabama that, really has developed a number of top tier guys through the years, from, many, many guys. The late Al Lucas. I don't know if you remember Al Lucas. I think he played for them, but he died. He was in the Arena League for a while. But I mean, Troy State's got some guys, including Javon Solomon, who led the nation this year with like 16 sacks or 17 sacks. But yeah, this guy Shaquille Brown is interesting. I mean, he's a big man who can move, and he's got good strength. And he's just kind of raw. So, I think he was the other guy on that defensive line that kind of opened my eyes this week.
Man. Okay. So speaking of guys that opened your eyes, I know you've been crowing about this kid, so I might as well just go ahead and give you your just due. I know that you're about to have a good time with this one.
Who do you got?
Tanner Mordecai. How did he look? Is this your new Brock? Is he your new Brock?
I mean, he's not Brock, right? Because Brock.
Yo, you said that in such a disgusting way. Yo, get a room. Get a room.
He's not
what was
Brock.
that?
He's
not Brock. Like, Jesus Christ.
Well,
go ahead, man.
Brock made every drill. I mean, 2 years ago at minicamp, he made every drill look like he designed the drill. You know what I mean? Like he invented the drill, and they were just copying him. He was like the template of how to run many of these drills. 2 years ago. So this guy's not that, but plenty of arm strength. Not the biggest. I mean, in a lot of ways, very similar. Not the biggest guy. Plenty of arm strength. Plenty of experience. Really, really calm out there on the field, and a very calm demeanor. He threw nothing but strikes. He was accurate. So in that regard, he was like Brock. He was very, very accurate. Where, he's not like Brock is I think Brock throws the intermediate and deeper ball with a little bit better touch than this guy. This guy's a little bit, his ball's a little flat. It's got a little bit of the Trey Lance flat ball thing where it's doesn't have quite the touch. But yeah, he looks good. And the fact of the matter is, He runs 4.46, and that is like, when the bullets are flying and you're playing in the preseason, and Shanahan calls a play, you drop back to pass, somebody beats the third string offensive guard and is sitting in your lap. That's when he's going to show what traits he has, because he's got 4.46 speed, and he can take off and run, and he runs in the middle of the field with confidence and courageousness. So, he didn't look like anything special like in this setting. Because you're talking about, but he definitely has a good enough arm. Like he probably has better arm strength than Purdy, just not quite the touch or the timing. Purdy's a little quicker, he's a little faster. But
is he conscientious? Can he see the field? Like what do
yeah,
you see in him?
Yeah, he a lot of the same things I saw with Brock, I see with this guy, in that he's played a lot of football, so he's really, really calm, right? So like, he's out there, and he doesn't look like these drills or anything. He's just kind of doing it. He's kind of humdrum, matter of fact, looks like Johnny Cool guy. He's not big. He's not big, so I would say he's similar to Brock. He's probably a half-inch taller than Brock and probably about 10 pounds lighter. So, he doesn't look like much on the practice field. Brock didn't look like much. But this guy's, got great foot speed, a real solid arm. And not only that, it's like the ball comes out on the short. I mean, most of the stuff that Shanahan wants out of his quarterback is the short game and the intermediate game and the timing, and the ball's coming out on time with accuracy all day and he wore number 4. There was another quarterback out there named Davidson, let me see, who didn't look particularly good. And he was, let's see, they had 2 quarterbacks. Mitch Davidson from Youngstown State. And he was a bigger guy, but he was fiery, and he but he just looked really raw. Mordecai looked less impressive, but very calm, in control. So, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'll say this. If Mordecai plays the way he can play, it's going to be a very good competition between Mordecai and Brandon Allen for that third job. And I'm not a huge Josh Dobbs guy either. I mean, not that I don't like Dobbs. He's smart and he's athletic, but I mean, I saw that Bears Vikings game, and he was just terrible in that game. He threw 3 picks. He could have thrown 5 or 6. He was really, really bad. So, we'll see. I'm not convinced that Dobbs is great or Brandon Allen is any good. So we'll see if Mordecai can beat him out. But it is interesting that, I think one of the guys that pounded the table for Mordecai was Brian Greasy. And maybe Greasy has a little bit more quarterback evaluating skills than and feel, because he supposedly was, him and Bobby Slowick were the guys that got Shanahan
to pull the trigger on Brock.
Yeah. So it's like, if Greasy, I mean, think about it this way. If Greasy's only contribution is that, man, he really sees quarterback talent, well, and that's
worth his price in gold.
Right. Exactly. I was just going to say the same thing.
That could be all your job. Like that's it.
All the guy does is has a good feel for
he's good
undrafted free agent quarterbacks are worthy. Then that's enough right there. I'd keep him around based on that trade.
Give him an office. Set him up.
Totally.
Provision his credentials.
Look how valuable it is. Look how valuable it is. If you can find a good undrafted quarterback and you got a good feel for it, that's valuable, man. I mean, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan potentially are fired today without Brock Purdy. That's true. I mean, instead they've got contract extensions and they're the toast of football. So imagine if they'd missed on Trey and there was no such thing as Brock Purdy. So
they were up for slaughter, bro. Come on, man.
Yeah,
they were dead.
And the fans were going to crush.
They were dead men walking. They Brock saved their bacon. That's full stop. So
if by chance Greasy is some quarterback whisperer, as far as he can identify good young quarterbacks, then that right there, he's that. I don't care. That's enough for him to stick around as that's a major asset right there because it's so hard to handicap that position.
Yeah, 100%. So sticking on the offensive side, what'd you see out of Isaac Garendo and Cody Schrader?
Well, Garendo is different looking in person than
I'm
he
about to say, does
than
okay.
he
So let's
than
stop
he
right here real
was
quick.
on the film. The film, he looks watching that red top Louisville jersey and the white pants. He just looked top heavy, and he looked like thick, like
How
really
does he
thick.
look in person?
In person, he looks taller and more like sleek.
Okay,
Like you look at him and go, yeah, I could see how this guy could run
the
super
four
fast.
three. Okay, I was about to say. So he
He's got
looks like he can
long,
run it.
yeah, he's got long legs, but they're powerful, and he's lean. He's not a he doesn't look thick. He looked thicker and squattier
It's because of the
on
white.
film. When you
It's
see
those
him on the
white pants.
field, he's not 5'10. He's 6'1 and a half. He's not 240. He's 220. So he's just kind of a he's not the quickest guy, and his change of direction is just okay, but you can see the speed. I mean, he's a one cut, one move guy,
Foot
and
in the
then he's going to
ground,
go.
gone.
He wants to hit the straight line and hit the afterburners.
Yeah, that's gonna take discipline for
I
him
don't
to be
think.
able to run
I think
that.
he's a fullback. He looks. I mean, he's a unique guy. He was a high school wide receiver. He's got wide receiver height. He kind of runs upright like a wide receiver. He doesn't run with the body lean of a SEC running back who's been formally trained to run, at an angle. He runs more upright. But then he's also big and strong, and he looks like the kind of guy where he could definitely block somebody. So I don't know. I'm not sure what his spot is. I think he's a fullback because I see a guy who can run, catch, and block, but doesn't necessarily have running back run instincts. So he doesn't have the pick and slide. He doesn't have that kind of. He's not going to slither in and out of holes. He's not. That's not his thing. He's
Well, let's stick with
he can catch. He can
let's stick
catch the
with
ball.
fullback then. Let's stick with fullback. Is this somebody that could really push Juice? Do you see a real competition at H back?
There's no doubt because I mean this guy's a phenomenal athlete at 6'1", 220, and he can catch and block. So I think that I haven't seen more than a guy or two every year that has come into the league the last couple of years that even plays fullback, and a lot of them are kind of slowish or too small, or this guy's got the kind of traits where he could, you know, you can throw him the ball in the flat, he makes one guy miss, and he's down the sideline. So I think I think if he makes the team, I think they got to be thinking about the Juice replacement, and this guy's got to be an option.
I mean, as far as the Juice replacement, if he can pull it off athletically, I would say he's an upgrade.
Oh, he's way faster, and he's taller. So I'd say he's a little taller than Juice, a little faster than Juice, definitely a lot
And he can
faster.
definitely catch. Are they on par as far as with the ball skills?
He can catch. Yeah, there's no question. This guy can catch the ball. He did drop one, but I mean it's rookie minicamp. But he also he's got enough power to block. So I mean, this guy, it's just a matter of how tough is he? Does he a willing?
What's Juice's numbers? How much does Juice weigh?
Juice is like 6'1", 6'6'1", 240, 235. This guy's 6'1", 225, maybe 220. Yeah. But this guy's definitely athletic. Like you can tell, wow, this guy's really athletic. He's not as wide as he looks on the film. He's taller and rangier. But he to me, if you're looking to save money, I mean, look at what this kid potentially could be. I mean, um, how often do the Niners ask Juice to really, block somebody? It's like he's kind of the jack of all trades. He's playing wildcat quarterback, direct snaps. He's flared out. He's in motion. They're throwing him the ball. I mean, he has a bunch of different roles. I feel like Garendo could absolutely do all those roles.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, can you imagine Isaac Garendo on a wheel route?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, can you imagine just trying to defend a 4-3 fullback when you also have to defend Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, CMC? They're going to put one of the slowest guys on the field, you would think, on the fullback, and this guy could absolutely ruin that guy.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
force
it
that
could
guy off
definitely
the
be an
field.
H-back situation where you can almost kind of get rid of Debo's skill set, really. You got a guy like Garendo.
Yeah, I mean, he does. He definitely reminds me a little bit of Debo in that Debo doesn't have the awesome cutting ability, but he's got great. Once he gets rolling, it's like he's got this. You don't want to stand in front of him because he's just hard to bring down. I think Garendo with 2 or 3 steps is going to be really hard to bring down.
Yeah. I'm starting to see what we're doing, man, with this draft and these guys coming in. Kyle wants to spread it out. He wants speed, but he still wants to have enough physicality to start with condensed formations, get into 12 and 21, but be able to have the athleticism and the ball skills with each of these guys to be able to make defenses stay honest, because that's how we lose when defenses feel like they can chop off certain parts of the field against us because they understand how the strength of our team. If these guys are early contributors, which they all should be, I see Kyle's going to spread it out and try to run with speed. I think we're going to be a spread team this year.
They have a lot more weapons. You've added some really good receiving weapons for sure. Cowing, Pearsall, Garendo. Cody Schrader didn't look like much, but that's kind of par for the course. Cody Schrader doesn't look like much.
Doesn't look like much, right?
He's a small, shortish, 215-pound, compact back. But what he does have, he's got great feet, great heart, great determination, knows how to run. I think he's going to be heard from this summer for sure. But in this setting, he doesn't stand out because he's not particularly big or fast.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Now, you said something earlier in the show, and you said this about I forget what player we were talking about, but you said you saw him right away. Oh, Donovan West. You said that you saw him right away, and you automatically said no. Not only did you say no, but something else that you said that stuck out to me is that you said that I automatically knew that what they got him for, it wasn't worth it. I automatically knew the hype that they were putting around him wasn't worth the squeeze. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I saw it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Now,
because he got the highest guarantee among undrafted guys, and he just didn't look the part. And then last year, that happened again. The Niners gave Joey Fisher from Shepherd
I was
the
a big
highest
Joey Fisher
guarantee. Yeah, he was another guy that I thought, man,
short arms.
But he was a short arm guy. But not only that, it was like you gotta. It's there. The NFL game is a game played by athletes, and you have to really be able to have movement ability. And Fisher was just stiff, really stiff. So it's like he didn't have great length to his arms, but then he also didn't have great speed, and so it's like there just wasn't a lot there.
All right, so a couple of questions that I have for you now that you've seen Ricky Pearsall for a full practice, whatever. Number one, does he look like a first round pick?
I would say no.
Okay.
I would say no. I don't think he looks like a first round pick. I think he looks like um, a guy who's got good stop and start, really good agility. Like this guy looks like he's really worked on his three cone. He's really worked on his short area agility and ability to turn and his footwork. But he didn't look like a first round draft choice athlete where you're
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, that guy stands
that's the
out.
guy they picked in the first round. He didn't
Right.
look like that guy.
He didn't look like a first round draft choice
So let me ask
athlete.
you this: Debo pick was an early second round pick, correct?
Yeah,
When you first saw Debo, did you get it right when you first saw him?
totally. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you
Because you
saw
could
Brandon
see.
Ayuk, so when you saw Brandon Ayuk, did you see it? Did you see the talent? Did you say, okay, I see why they moved heaven to
Well,
their
I
feet?
loved Ayuk from his sophomore year. So I saw
Oh
him
well,
as a
damn.
sophomore at
Okay,
ASU.
okay,
I saw him as a return guy. I thought he was super explosive. I thought he was kind of a burner. Um,
okay.
he's he's actually become less of a burner and more of a big bodied guy. To me, I saw a guy who could run exceptionally fast, but his real thing is that he's got these long arms where he's 6'1", but he plays like 6'4".
Okay. So because exactly, we're not gonna go with because this is what I want to do. I don't want to get into context and not no, I want to get into things that we all can know and feel. First impressions are a big thing to me, right? Especially when you see a player. Before you start telling yourself a story about what you believe about this guy, you got to be able to look at him and say, okay, this is the product. This is what I believe about him. So as far as athletically, the first time you see him, did he look like a plus athlete? Did he look like he was the most athletic guy out there in the receiver group? Was he finishing the drills the fastest? Was he pushing for the reps? What was his attitude? Was he peacocking, or was he trying to get along with everybody? Like, was he stealing reps? Was he trying to be the first in the reps? Was he getting
You talking
mad at
about
himself
you
with
talking about
calls?
Pearsall?
Yeah.
Pearsall was leading the reps. He was first
Okay.
in line. Um, so first it was Tay Martin, and then I think the wide receiver coach was getting frustrated with Tay Martin, and then had Pearsall and Cowing at the front of the drill. So
Okay.
they were leading the way. He looks like he's been put through the paces. Like he knows all the drills. Everything looked very comfortable to him. He didn't seem like a rookie in any way. He's got good size. He just doesn't have the awesome, like, first round, um, athleticism as far as like, he just doesn't look like he looks like he's going to be effective, but he doesn't look wow, look at that guy. That guy really stands out.
Mhm.
Um, I thought Cowing looked better in some of the drills, to be honest,
How do you look in
than
one-on-ones?
Pearsall. Well, we didn't see tons of one-on-ones, but, the only thing I didn't like about Pearsall, some of the one of the quarterbacks that he was playing with, I think the kid from Davidson, threw the ball really high one time, and, it's like he didn't even jump for it because it was, like, way high.
He
And
didn't
it
even
it
try.
looked
He didn't
kinda
even
like
believe
he
he
was
could do
big
it.
leaguing him a little bit, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want me to go up in the air for that?" I mean, that was 5 feet above, you know? So it was an errant throw, and he just didn't go for it. But, he definitely looks polished as far as he looks like a guy who knows how to run a route. He looks like a guy who knows how to sink his hips. He knows how to kinda get in and out of the route, pretty efficiently. The footwork is really good. You can see where he could turn guys into a pretzel with the turns and the stop and start.
How do you look
But
in how's he look against man? That's what everybody's talking about. Is he a strong oh now one thing I noticed about
he had a
Cowing is that you said
67% career success rate against man, I believe.
I don't know. Well, I don't even know the okay. Is that good? Uh,
Yeah, 67% would
okay.
be good.
Great.
I mean, it's not spectacular. It's not 77 or something like that, but it's still pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, it's press here to me. I mean, I've read about 15 different scouting reports on him and watched him a bunch. To me, it
Mm.
comes down to two things: balance and toughness. How good of contact balance does he have? Because it's like what I'm seeing a lot on film is him running a really good route, sitting in the soft spot on his own, or getting open against man, making the catch and going to the ground. He's
Mhm.
not Ayuk. He's
Yak
not Debo. He's not a yak monster. He's like, he's gonna catch it and go down.
and fall.
And so it's like if it's 3rd and 6, he's got to run a 7-yard pattern and catch the ball and then go down. He's not going to run for 3 and then juke a guy, make another guy miss, and carry another guy for the extra yards. He's got to run to the sticks, catch it, and lay down. That's kind of his thing. It seems like he's not a run after the catch receiver at all. He's a what he's going to be. I think is going to be a continuity piece to keep the offense on the field. He's going to be kind of like a glorified tight end in that, when you got to have 5 yards, he's going to give you 5 yards, and it's going to be borderline. It's going to be kind of like Puka. It's like, it felt like Stafford to Puka on those stop routes and the little in cutters and out cutters. I mean, it almost felt like if they were in lockstep with one another, like it was, you couldn't defend it. Well, the same,
Mhm.
you get that same vibe with Pearsall. That's really going to be his thing, is that you're gonna know Purdy's going to him, but he's gonna know what the route is. Purdy's gonna know what the route is. Purdy's gonna throw the ball with anticipation. This guy's gonna run a disciplined route, be in the right spot at the right time, and it's gonna hit him in the hands. He's gonna hold on. And it's gonna be a first down. And you're gonna sit there and go, I'm glad this guy's on the team because he's keeping the offense on the field. So, but he's not going to be like, hey, I threw it to him at the 10 and he, made another guy miss and ran in, or I threw it to him at the 30 and he ran the rest of the way. He's going to catch it and go down.
Well, let me ask you. Okay, so with understanding that, where does he fit if everybody plays? If Jawan plays, Debo plays, BA plays, where does this our first round draft pick, where does he make it on the field?
I think he's just going to be, he's going to be in a rotation. He's going to come in certain situations and, definitely in some 3 wide receiver sets. He'll probably, get some reps. But I think he's going to be a guy that when they go to an obvious passing down situation and they need to convert, that he's going to be a very difficult guy to defend. I mean, this is why I don't want to be real critical of him, and I would encourage others to not be real critical of him
Mhm.
because here's the thing. Yeah, I think we're all right in that, like, he doesn't have first round athleticism, and there probably were other guys, maybe even better players they could have gone with as far as line of scrimmage at that spot, especially since they went with Cowing late and they're already deep at wide receiver. But what this guy's going to be is this guy's going to be that maddening player to defend, and
Yeah,
that's why
like a
that's
Hunter
why I
Renfro,
do like him, because it's like you're trying to get
Puka.
off the field. You're trying to get off the field. You're trying to get off the
Don't
field.
have anybody that's going to guard this kid.
Yeah, I mean, like, like one of the things I thought was really strong about Detroit this year is that one of the reasons they were so good was that when they needed 3rd and 6, Amon Ra could run a 8-yard whatever pattern, and Goff could throw it with anticipation, a little laser, and it was like unstoppable because you didn't know where he was going, and Goff did know where he was going, and the guy's got ball skills and can catch it, and this and that. I see the same thing with Pearsall. It's like once Pearsall and Purdy get in lockstep and they have, a couple weeks in camp to rep it out, Brock Purdy's going to know, hey, you know what? This guy, one thing I love about Pearsall when you watch the film is when the quarterback moves, he moves. So it's like he keeps the play alive. So it's like the play that's called in the huddle. Okay, that's one thing. But when the quarterback changes platform and moves 10 feet to the left, he finds a way to work to an open spot. Well, on this 49er team, that could be just unstoppable. If Brock moves 8 feet to the right and this guy moves, break gets a little separation on that secondary movement from the quarterback, and all of a sudden it's pitch and catch, and the chains are moving. So I think he's going to be more of an effective chain mover, continuity piece, borderline kind of tight end, possession receiver. And I think he'll be effective, but I don't know that we're ever going to sit there and go, you know what? They don't need Debo. They don't need Ayuk. They've got Pearsall. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. So you don't think
He's a
actually
great
gonna
complementary receiver.
So he's a complimentary receiver. You don't think he's a replacement of anybody that we have.
Right. I don't think he's definitely not a boundary X like Ayuk, who can get open against any kind of coverage and run after the catch. And, he's not doesn't those physical dominant traits. They're all different, right? All these guys are a little bit different. Debo doesn't have great route running, right? But he's powerful as hell, will run through you. This guy doesn't. This guy's got great route running. He's not real powerful, isn't going to run through you. But you know what?
So he's a before the catch athlete.
Yeah, well, it's going to be like good luck getting Brock Purdy off the field when he's got Ayuk and McCaffrey and all these different weapons. And then also, by the way, on third downs, we're going to take, I don't know, Debo off the field, and Jennings and Ayuk and this guy are going to be out there together. And this guy's going to run a 6-yard, in route on 3rd and 4. He's going to catch it, and the team's going to move the chains. So, he's like a really, really, really good possession receiver. I kind of think he's kind of like a poor man's Cup, kind of a poor man's Cooper Cup.
All right. So
not as quick, but maybe a little stronger. Definitely a little faster.
So what I'll say is this. What do you think about us getting a complimentary player in the first round then?
I don't love it. To me, your center's Jake Brendel. He got owned by DJ Reader. DJ Reader's now a Detroit Lion. For that reason alone, I would have taken Zach Frazier. I would have wanted that strong nose guard, plug and play, or for strong center, I should say, plug and play, and really build that fortress around Brock. But they obviously felt like, Pearsall was the guy. I will say this. I like the fact that, the Ravens general manager touted him. Now, Jesse was saying, hey, if he picked somebody else 1 pick earlier. Yeah, that's true. But it just doesn't mean that, so, I think Pearsall probably was like a mid-second round pick, and they took him in the late first. Renardo Green was probably like a late third round pick, mid-third round pick, and they took him in the late second. So, a couple of their picks, you could say they overdrafted. But to me, when, I
could say that Puka Nacua got overdrafted too.
What round? Didn't he go in the 5th?
Yeah, I think the 4th. I think he got picked up in the 4th.
4th? Yeah, Puka is, when you're watching Stafford and you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, how do you get your defense off the field against the Rams right now? Well, part of it is that Puka can run all these little rub routes and all these little 5-yard routes and get open, and it's maddening, but it's effective. And I think, I don't think it's any accident that, a guy like Pearsall may have been overdrafted the year after Puka became, the most prolific rookie receiver in years. So it's a copycat league. Everybody's looking for the same thing. And once people saw how dangerous Puka could be, in those little stop routes and those little 5-yard routes, suddenly it's like, hey, look, you
We
know,
don't need an offensive line when we get the ball out that fast. I
and
already
Shan
can see.
and I'm sure Shanahan probably after watching the Super Bowl is a little frustrated with the lack of route running of some of his receivers, the way that Snead and McDuffie kind of shut down Ayuk and Debo, and maybe he wants somebody. I mean, both the receivers they added have exceptional, ball skills and route running and hands, and so they're refined receivers. So maybe Shanahan saw the way the Super Bowl went and wants a different looking receiver.
I just feel like the Pearsall pick is planned obsolescence. It's like we're not really trying to get a guy that's going to go into a second year contract and we're going to actually keep and mold and give equity into. I think that they're getting him as a complimentary piece that they know is going to fizzle out down the road. That's why they picked him up, because
I don't know if he'll fizzle out, but like they know in their mind. I liked Xavier Leggett. He went next, right? He went with the next pick. I would have taken the Georgia kid McConkey probably over Pearsall just on the 40 time.
yeah, me too.
But I mean he's also a durability risk, and I didn't love him. I was liking him more and more as the thing went on. But yeah, I would have gone for A.D. Mitchell or one of those other receivers.
Well, we got our guy,
but they wanted a guy. I mean that's the thing. They took a guy, two guys that I think can really help them. And the one thing is you can't say that the Pearsall pick was a bad pick, because look what you have at quarterback. You have a quarterback that loves to work in the middle of the field and loves to buy himself extra time. And, this guy is almost Pearsall in a lot of ways is the perfect receiver to play with Brock Purdy, because he works back to the quarterback when the quarterback moves and buys extra time. This guy finds an open wrinkle in the defense, sits down and makes the catch. So that potentially could be very, very effective. That's the only thing. It's like, I liked other guys better. I would have gone with Michael Hall or Rukaroro on the defensive line, or Zach Frazier, maybe even a different
or Xavier Leggett.
Xavier Leggett. But I do understand why they like this guy, why they think he's a good fit. And like, if you told me that, there's potential for Purdy to Pearsall to be a prolific, combination, I could see it, because Purdy's super accurate and this guy's super exact in his route running.
I see it. Yeah. I'm not going to, this is what I will say. We could talk about what they could have, should have done, but it's also incredibly disingenuous to say that we all would have made the right decision had we been in that position, had we been the one to pull the trigger. So they made the pick, right? I feel like we're asking all of the questions that deserve to be asked. Like, was it a reach? Could we have done better? Because, that's fair. But now that we do have them, you can't be blind to the fact that you don't see the syntax, right? You see why they're doing this. They're trying to connect Brock with another weapon, somebody else that he can get the ball out to quickly, somebody else that he can use the way he used Christian, as the same way he uses George. And in this day and age of the NFL, you're right, it is a bit of a copycat league, and Puka Nacua and guys that are in Amon-Ra St. Brown and these slots who are, they're positioned as slots on the field, but they move like number one receivers as far as like the way they're dependent on, especially in short yardage downs. I love the point that you brought up with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. Like that's an incredible advantage for him to be able to have that in his back pocket whenever he just wants to get a timing route. And that honestly leans into what Brock does. So I want to give him a chance. But just optically right now, I would have to see how his skill set lays on our scheme, right? Because I just would have to see it. But pound for pound, he just doesn't wow anybody. He doesn't wow me, right? But but inside of our offense, he could definitely be somebody that could be a huge contributor. So I want to give him grace, right? He didn't ask to
Well,
be
it's
here.
like anything else too. It's like, certain receivers, like if I say to you, who are the best receivers in football? People are going to say Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. They're going to name like 5 or 6 guys. And then they're going to name Cooper Kupp, right? He's not ever going to be the first guy you name, but he's damn good, right? But it's like, why do we not name him first? Because he's more effective than he is like awesome, right?
Yeah.
When you watch Jamar Chase, I mean, you're like, oh, that guy's awesome. Justin Jefferson, oh man, that guy's awesome. When you watch Cooper Kupp, you're like, damn, that guy's oddly effective.
Yeah, he's a product of what's designed for him, right? Like he's not necessarily going to go out and go hunt for his own food, you know.
He's a
But
4.62 guy. I mean, he doesn't even run that well, but he's got good quickness, great route running, great hands. He's in lockstep with his quarterback. The quarterback knows exactly where he's going to be. He's always exactly where he's supposed to be.
right,
And then he just catches it in a crowd. He takes a little lick. He goes to the ground. He doesn't have, like, if you said, give me the 15 best highlight reel plays from wide receivers in the NFL, I bet you none of them come from Cooper Kupp.
I mean, when's the last
But
time you could think of a
3rd
great
and
slot
7.
receiver? Where's the great slot receiver that got picked up in the first round? Like, who's that guy? Like, who's the like the Hall of Fame slot receiver that led his team to multiple winning seasons and was in this and went into the Hall of Fame? Who's that guy?
Art
Like,
Monk.
who's the Art Monk was not a slot receiver.
But
Like,
I mean, Art Monk was a.
but that's the point that I'm trying to make, though. Like, name the team that put their entire brain trust together, and what they came up with is in the first round, we're gonna go get this slot receiver, and you know what? This is gonna be a guy that's gonna make it to his second contract. He's going to be on the program. We're going to put this kid out to go kiss babies. He's going to be the Make-A-Wish Foundation guy. Name that slot receiver that a team pounded the table for and said, we got to have this guy. And everybody stood up and high-fived each other once they got him. Who's that slot receiver?
I mean, is Tyreek Hill considered a slot receiver?
No.
I mean, small, small two-way break guys who are, I mean, it kind of reminds me of being in the Canadian League. It's like, the slot receiver, there's
it's
guys
just an odd position to pick in the first round. Like you can,
yeah.
That's the only thing. It's just odd.
Well, I'll say this though. It's becoming slot corner, I think, is more valuable than ever before. And slot receivers are being utilized more than ever before. So you better be able to defend the slot. God knows that McDuffie was super great at defending the slot at times in the Super Bowl. To me, it's about impressive versus effective. I just think a guy like Pearsall, I don't think that he's ever going to be your number one receiver. So I don't like drafting any wide receiver in the first round that doesn't have potential to be my number one receiver. So that's why I didn't like it initially, because I'm like, yeah, he's a really effective, ready to play,
all right,
slot receiver. But is he ever going to be your number one receiver?
And I want to be respectful.
I
want to be respectful. I want to be respectful because I'm a chat baby. So I'm not going to act like I don't see the chat. Percy Harvin, is this kid Percy Harvin? Is Ricky Pearsall on the level of Percy Harvin?
Different players. Like Percy was really explosively fast, but didn't have this kid's route running ability at all. I mean, this guy to me is more like kind of like if you crossed Ozakeem and Isaac Bruce, or Ozakeem and Torrey Holt. Like Torrey Holt was more of a route runner. Ozakeem was more.
You just said that he's quicker, bigger, and more athletic than Percy Harvin?
No, Percy Harvin's faster than he is.
No. Amar Singh. I'm looking at my man in
Oh,
the chat right now. He said he's quicker, bigger, and more athletic than Percy Harvin. Are you? We
no,
need to
but he
start giving out drug tests for the chat. This is nuts.
Percy Harvin also had migraines and had some off field issues, but I mean, Percy Harvin was really, really tough too. And it's like, is this kid tough? I don't know. I mean, that's that to me. The big question is just how much balance does this guy have? I saw him on the ground way too much. And can he get out? Can he beat the jam? Can he get off the line of scrimmage against the best corners with length and tenacity? Can he beat those guys off the line? That's my first one. The second one is just, does he have balance and how tough is he? It's like, can he play the game on his feet? And is he tough? Is he tough enough to get off the line? Is he tough enough to take a big hit and hold on? Is he tough enough to take a big hit and not have wind up with alligator arms the next time? Is he looking for the big hit across the middle after a while because he hears footsteps because he's not the biggest guy? I don't know. To me, if you told me like all the people said, well, he's kind of a bigger, faster Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman was like one of the toughest receivers the league's ever seen. Yeah. So don't tell me he's Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman
I would
was
love
rarely
to see him get
tough.
his own. I would love to see him carve out a niche for himself because as a first round pick coming in, you got to have a niche, right? Like him just being a serviceable receiver is not enough, right? So I would like to see with what his skill set is, right? He's very polished, right? Really good route runner, reliable hands, plus speed. I just want to see where that is going to be. Where's that going to fit in, right? How are you going to?
It has to fit in as a continuity thing. So when I say that, what I mean is your offense has got to stay on the field because every time you get to 3rd and 5, Purdy finds this guy and nobody can stop it. That's what that if you want to say what are the Niners hoping for, I gotta think that's the hope, right? That this guy is such a good route runner with such great hands, and Purdy's so good at extending plays with his legs that every time they get to 3rd down and 5, Purdy can find this guy at will, and it's borderline unstoppable. That to me, if you say, what do I hope to get out of this? That's what I'm hoping to get is that they get a guy who's just almost an unstoppable short and intermediate guy on 3rd downs.
Okay.
But if we think you're going to throw it to this guy in the flat on a hitch and he's going to make a guy miss and then rumble down the sidelines like we've seen Debo, no, that's not. He doesn't have that kind of athleticism. He's more of like, you know what? I ran a 5-yard out. You rushed the quarterback. He moved to another spot. I worked back to a 5-yard sideline pass and caught it and extended the game, or extended the drive. I think he's a drive extender that keeps you on the field. And it's kind of like, if the Niners have Ayuk and Kittle and CMC and Debo, and they've got all these good weapons, well, now they're adding their Puka. And if they can keep drives alive because of Pearsall, I think that's his role.
I think he could be a good contributor. I do believe that when the rubber meets the road, I think that they think that maybe he could be a replacement for either BA or Debo or Juwan. But I just like to see what he can do. I'm gonna give him grace. I've had my bitch fit, so I'm gonna give him grace. We got him now. You know what I mean? It's not like you could do anything with him. Like he's ours. So I'm just want to see what we can do now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cowing is going to be the guy that really is going to be the difference maker. Why? Because he can separate on his own. Doesn't have to scheme. You don't have to scheme him open or scheme separation. He can just get separation, and then he's got really good ball skills. So, I think he's going to be the big play difference maker. I think the other guy's more of a continuity difference maker. I'm really eager to see Cody Schrader and Garendo too,
Mhm.
because I think Schrader is a very, very safe pick because he's got great instincts. But Garendo could be, could be kind of almost like an unprecedented type player. I mean, if he really is a 4-3 fullback, which is kind of what he looks like to me, that's kind of an unprecedented player in the history of the league. We've never seen a 4-3 fullback, and that could give the Niners offense a level of explosiveness that they've never had before. So I think that's really intriguing as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all things considered, we traditionally have been thinking about this team through the guise of what the scheme has given us thus far. And the
Right.
scheme has always given us a run first team that, quite frankly, is protecting their quarterback. Now, I feel as though that we're going to start seeing a lot of firsts in our regime, right? We got a quarterback now. So there is a lot of firsts where we're going to start seeing a little bit more of the fist unclenching a little bit from Kyle, him being a little bit more um, open to being able to turn his scheme around to focus more on what Brock's strengths are. I think that's going to be something that, is going to be a bit of a culture shock for us. Not seeing the running backs and the bigger offensive linemen and us kind of like repurposing the same vestiges of the offense that we're used to seeing. Now there is a bit of a transition on top of ushering out older, more expensive players and being able to bring in a new faction. And a little bit, in some instances, for those who are really behind the Ricky Pearsall pick, 2-3 years from now, we can say that he was the Trojan horse. He was the guy that ushered in the new modus operandi of how we run our offense. Like we could say that Ricky Pearsall was like the first chess piece that came here where it was like, man, can you believe what we are now? And it's just like, man, if you really think about it, when we got Ricky Pearsall in 2024, that was kind of like the first rendition of how we're gonna look now. So I understand that he's different, but I am smart enough to understand that I'm judging him based off of an old playbook of how we run things, but everything is always changing, right? So if we can wrap our minds around the context of we just lost the Super Bowl and we're always trying to do something different, we're trying to pivot, we're trying to repurpose what we do as a team. This may be one of those, misnomers like pointing towards that. So
It's a why it's I'll say this though, the Niners find a way to do things that you don't anticipate. Like for example, if you had said to me, "What do you think they're going to do going into the draft?" I
mhm.
would have said, "You know what? They always bolster their defensive line. They'll continue to do that." The only thing I thought they would do that they did was try to find a couple of alpha type leaders in the secondary. I think they did that with Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa. I think that was a
I
real
love what they
need.
did with their secondary. Safety was a big need.
Yeah.
Safety
And,
and
and
corner was a
it was
big
a
need.
bad draft for safety. And I think I actually kind of like think the other guy from Vanderbilt, Maloney, is not
Mhm.
bad either. Jalen Maloney. But I mean, as far as what they did, they added some alphas to their secondary. But if you had asked me, man, what are they going to do? I would have said they're going to bolster their offensive line. And I think they bolstered it a little bit. But man, for a team that already had Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Christian McCaffrey, Juszczyk. I mean, literally an all-star squad of position players. They added, another quarterback in Mordecai. They added two running backs, two wide receivers, a receiving tight end. They really added quite a bit of skill position guys, more than I thought they would, and hardly any offensive linemen. I mean four, but I mean no tackles. Yeah, I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised. If you had told me going into the draft they're going to add, two running backs, two wide receivers, a receiving tight end, a backup quarterback, but no offensive tackles, I would have thought, no, they're going to add an offensive tackle or two, but they just didn't. They feel good about the guys they have for whatever reason.
Well, we'll
We're
see,
going to
Larry.
find out. It might be a very painful lesson.
Well, I mean, look, you will say, I mean, we got first world problems. We were hoping that the offensive line, it just seems like we were all gearing towards the offensive line due to the fact of how rich the prospects were this year and the issues that we saw down the stretch. But for what it's worth, we got to the Super Bowl with this offensive line. And if you look at, what the holes that we needed for how strong the draft was in certain areas, you know, it wasn't necessarily a strong secondary draft as a whole. It was an even weaker safety draft. Um, I feel like I tend to believe that it wasn't bad, but it was top heavy interior defensive line. There were some good guys early, but as far as all of them up front, there weren't a lot of splash players in defensive line, and you could say the same thing for edge rusher. So in
Yeah.
certain areas, in certain aspects, you could say that they did the best they could with what they had. Also, with the Chiefs being hell bent on going to go get Xavier Worthy and trading up, so you never know if that was a guy that was really penciled in. I would love to know that. We'd never find that out, but I would love to know where they had Xavier Worthy.
Supposedly that was a Mahomes. The reason Kansas City went for him, Mahomes wanted him really bad.
Mhm.
That's kind of interesting. One last one before we jet. Coming out of now that we've had free agency and the draft,
Mhm.
who do you think is the Niners' number one competitor inside the division? If you said going forward, because like Seattle had a real good draft, but they still have Geno and they lost Drew Lock, so they're not they don't really have their quarterback. Arizona's got Kyler, and they had a really good draft, and the Rams, still have Stafford and Puka, and they had a Blake Corum to an already really good receiving core. They may be able to run it this year. They got Blake Corum and Kyron Williams.
Mhm.
Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals. Who's the number one challenger in the division in your mind?
I would say the Rams. They have the best quarterback in the division right now. I think Matt Stafford is more comfortable. We'll see what he looks like with his age. I mean, I think that he's officially in the part of his career where he's year to year, basically figuring out, if he's going to retire or if he's going to stay with the requisite talent that he had in the previous year. Uh, they worked on their offensive line. In previous years, their offensive line melded together later in the year. They started the year off really good with running the ball. I believe they were running the ball at a clip of maybe plus 30 times within the first 3 weeks of the season, especially when we came and saw them. They also picked up Blake Corum, and they have Kyron Williams, which is also another good running back that they have. Puka's back. They One thing I will say about the Rams that just annoys me, they don't do anything with their linebacking core. Like they really believe in those linebackers that they have over there. I do not understand
It's
why
true.
they
Troy
haven't done.
Reader and all these
Yeah,
guys. Yeah,
I just don't get why they just believe in these guys. I don't get. It's like us with offensive linemen. The Rams treat linebackers the way we treat offensive line, in that they get late guys who they just fall in love with and just put up with them all the time. So that's the only thing about the Rams that I would see as far as being a legit whole. But they're savvy. They know us. For what it's worth, they're the last team to win a Super Bowl in our division, even though we're the last team to go. And Sean McVay seems like he's kind of coming into his own. I saw clips of their war room as far as the draft was concerned, and just like his bedside manner, how he deals with the coaching staff, he seems to be a little bit more reserved. So I'm excited to see that. The reason why I picked them as well is that you just don't know what Arizona's going to do. They're way too far away, and the Seattle Seahawks just picked up a new coach, a defensive guy, but they still got Geno. I'm not a believer in Geno.
yeah.
So
No,
I would say it's the Rams.
I think it's the Rams too. I think it's the Rams too. And now that they have, look at those weapons. I mean, Stafford, Kyron, Corum, and then of course Puka, Cup. I mean, they've just got a lot of they're going to be a very difficult team to stop. Not to mention Tutu Atwell, super
Yeah.
speedster.
Hmm.
He's really good. Let's
And
read a couple.
they have more of a dedication to the run now. That they started that like
Well,
last year
they
was
built
kind of
up
like
their O
their
line. They built
there
up
you
their O
go.
line.
Last year was their like we're gonna do our homework and just try our best to make this a part of our culture. This is the year that it pays off for them. So I'm gonna be interested to see what they do. And they picked up Blake Corum. So they're gonna have a little two-headed monster back there with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. That's gonna be something to see.
I'm really eager to see Cody Schrader this summer because to me, Cody Schrader is kind of like a poor man's Blake Corum.
Okay.
Both like 5'9", 210, in that tiny range, but they're also really, really good. All right, you're gonna have to read these for me because my eyesight's awful
All
right
right.
now. Clarence Beeks. What is Clarence saying here?
Draft through camp is Larry's specialty, friends. Like and subscribe.
There you go. Oh,
He's been a
thank
member
you.
for 23 months, man. Thanks,
There you
man.
go. Clarence Beeks. Do you know who Clarence Beeks is?
Yes, we know who Clarence Beeks is. Trading Places is one of my favorite all-time movies.
The guys
Clarence Beeks.
the guys at the he wants to get on the payphone, and he's like, he gets on the payphone, somebody comes over while he's on the phone, he's like, beat it, maggot.
Beat it, maggot.
Calls the guy maggot.
Hey, Mortimer, I'm looking at these checks right here. I see one made out for $30,000 and another one for $50,000 to a Mr. Clarence Beeks. Who is this? That's why I love Trading Places, bro.
Plus, we got the full frontal from Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. What is this? The Niner to
The
love.
Niner you love to hate.
The Niner you love to hate. What's
Sounds like Shanahan saw something McVay has in Puka and said, "Ooh, I want one too." Yes, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It's no different than the kid who comes back from Christmas break and he's got a cool toy, and you're like, "Mom, Billy's got a cool toy. I want that toy.
Go get that thing.
Get that toy." We got
PDX
Niner.
Gotta remember, a lot of our team was for Jimmy. That's true. That's true. Ushering out
was to play with Jimmy.
Yeah, like George, Debo, Brandon Ayuk. Like, that's true. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So Jimmy, and when we say that, what do we mean? Well, Jimmy, didn't throw the ball down the field, so you really wanted a bunch of guys that were operated within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Purdy, has a little bit more accuracy as a passer. So now it's like get 2 or 3 guys with some ball skills, and you might really have something.
Amari Sting's $2. Does Pline look like he belongs, Larry?
No doubt. He looks like he belongs. He's 6'8" with receiving skills, good upper body strength. I'll say this: they're really barren at tight end. So, Cam Latu was there, but he wasn't working out. He was just in flip flops over by the weight room. But it's a huge summer for Cam Latu. It's a huge summer for Braden Willis. They may need to add another piece at tight end. Maybe somebody threw out like a Robert Tonyan or something like that. Something like that may make sense for the Niners. I mean, they may have to go in that direction.
LVL7 199 says Cardinals have 3 top 10 guys at tight end, running back, and wide receiver.
Yeah, they did. They got Trey Benson. I mean the
Harrison
Cardinals Harrison Jr. But they did trade Rondale Moore for Desmond Ridder, which that was kind of a weird.
I don't know. That's
why would you do that? Why would you do that when you have Kyler? Why would you trade a speedy little weapon like that? But yeah. So anyway, the Cardinals are coming. But as somebody who's worked there before, there's just something that's just dysfunctional about their organization.
It's Arizona.
Yeah, I mean it's from the ownership right on down, and it's just they just never quite. Like Monty Austin-Ford, I think is a good GM's had a couple good drafts, and Jonathan Garman, I think, is a really underrated coach. And they'll probably figure it out, but it's still the Cardinals, and it still seems like an uphill battle. And there's a lot of dysfunction in that organization, top to bottom. So there's no way around that. Coach, what do you got cooking the rest of your Saturday? What do you already took Hannibal for the run? What's on the docket today?
We got some work to do. Got to go see my peoples, man. Get Mother's Day is coming up, so we got to get geared up for Mother's Day tomorrow. So
just
Yeah. You scumbag.
I'm
You
gonna have to.
scumbag.
And I mean, I knew I had to do something. Now I'm like, you know what? Today's my Mother's Day day. I gotta, if Mother's Day is
You
gonna be
better
good
get your ass out
tomorrow,
there.
you
Yeah.
know, you think my kids are gonna be doing anything? No, they're
Dude,
just
you might be coming on stream with a black eye.
yeah,
You better,
exactly,
you better get your shit together.
Seriously. So don't forget, Mom. All right,
Mhm.
that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. Thanks to Marin Auto Glass. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Coach, have a great Saturday. Go Niners. We'll have more to talk about as we get closer to camp. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly